Hello and welcome to a new video today. Today I'm wanted to make another one of those tier lists by ranking the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've seen every single one of them, which obviously makes it very easy for me to rank them. Some obviously being a long time ago, and some of them most recent movies I've seen in the last few months or years. But I will still try to make the best out of it, and obviously this is only my opinion, so be sure to share yours or to tell me if you disagree with something. I'm highly excited to see the results. So starting off, I'll just start like how these movies are presented here, with the Avengers. For now, I think I'm gonna go B tier. Maybe for later, somewhere around A or B, but right now I'm just gonna go for B tier. Um, I think The Avengers was a really, really nice movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and like, the first coming together of all these heroes from the different movies that we've met before, it's just really, really nice. The way it was teasered before in the Iron Man movies, that made me really excited. And then seeing all these come together against Loki in an absolutely spectacular fight, there's not too much to complain for. This is a well-made movie. Well, actually, I'm gonna go for 80. Like thinking about it now, back then when I watched it, not in cinema actually, but on iTunes, I believe, I enjoyed it quite a lot, and I think this is a great movie. So nothing too bad. Yeah. Just I feel like what stops it from being like somewhere around these areas particular is that the Avengers is has still, I think, a lack of I'm not exactly too sure how to describe it, but I feel like it's just sometimes a little bit boring, and it has a few passages where it's actually not too exciting, but the end of the fight and everything is made very cool, and the interaction between those characters meeting for the first time. Very nice. Then I'll go with the Hulk. Yeah, honestly, I'll put it at D tier. Even though I've only watched it once or twice, I'm not a big fan. I think the effects at that time, the visual effects were pretty bad. And so it was not too special. I think the overall plot was like, except for Hulk, for his origin story. So basically the first 30 minutes or an hour, that was quite the most important thing to keep in mind for this movie. But except from that, the enemy was not really spectacular. He looked awful. The CGI was very bad, and overall, except for his origin, I didn't really care at all. Then Captain America: The First Avenger. I'll put it at C tier. This is probably the average. So somewhere around here is like where I would say these are all movies I've watched and it was fine. This is below average. Just so that you guys know that the average is not exactly where the average of the tiers is. Yeah, the Captain America: The First Avenger, I really enjoyed it. I think the whole location of the World War II being extremely exciting to watch and just historically always interesting. It was not too spectacular, to be honest. It was very predictable, the outcome, because as we know, obviously they will line up together at some time, so you knew pretty much what was gonna happen at the end, that he somehow goes to wake up or goes to somehow be there at the end. But the overall location of all the characters, the Colonel, the Agent Carter, and so on, I really like them, and I think it was a good movie. So then I think I'll go more chronologically because I will not just pick every single movie. Iron Man, which is actually like the first movie, I could have started with that one, but that's still like the order is fine, I think, except for Avengers. And Iron Man, I just love this movie. I love Robert Downey Jr. in his role as Tony Stark, and the first Iron Man movie was exceptionally well made. The effects were so good for that time. I mean, it was in 2008. It's very impressive, and yeah, I loved every single character. I loved the whole um, what's now contributed as Marvel formula. Is basically what started with Iron Man, the extremely arrogant guy that finds out that somehow he has to change or cannot continue his current style of living, and that changes him in a way where I think they did it very good in these movies and in other ones as well. But then it kind of started to be a little bit boring, obviously, but in Iron Man they did a great job with that, and I can't really blame them for doing that in the first movie, as hey, they have never done it before at that point, so I think it's fine. Yeah, then let me see the first Thor movie. Same as the first Hulk movie. I really didn't like the characters or the overall performance of the people in the Thor movies, in the first and spoiler, the second one. There's not much to say. It's pretty much similar to some way of Iron Man, but I think overall they just made it way worse. It's not very exciting. So he just lands at Earth after he screws up with his dad, and then he has to like gain his trust or gain the worthiness of his father or of Asgard back to lift his hammer again. And then at the end he fights this huge robot thing, and then Loki kind of dies, and he doesn't die. He's back at again and in Avengers. So I don't know. It's not really something I enjoyed too much, and I think I have watched it twice or three times. I don't know. So then I think this should be like the first phase. Oh no, I forgot Iron Man 2. It was also before the Avengers. Iron Man 2. For now I'll put it in C tier. Um, I'm a huge Iron Man fan, and I really, really love those characters. That's, I think, is what saved the movie from being shut down to D tier, because the overall plot and the enemy being this Russian guy who kind of had a way of reproductioning the Iron Man technology was, I don't know, was pretty unoriginal to me, and just he didn't really seem like a threat to Iron Man from the beginning of. And then there's this Hammer guy who also wants to produce weapons and assists him then, and it was all very predictable and pretty lame. The coolest thing about this being obviously War Machine being there for the first time. Don Cheadle doing a good performance. I really like this, liked how he portrayed the character, and that's all I can say. So pretty average, maybe a little bit below average. Yeah, so this is, I think, what is considered to be the first phase of Marvel. And then I'll just continue. I'm not too sure about the order right now, but yeah, so Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I'll put at B tier. Actually a very nice movie. A lot of people would probably have it higher up, which I can totally understand, but I didn't really like the first phase of the movie where they have to like run away from all those, sorry, from all those shield agents, from all those secret Hydra members, and they just run away, have to like find out what happened. And I don't know, this whole thing was overall just pretty good. I just felt like some passages of the film weren't really that much intense as I would have liked it to, when having that many characters in a movie, which I think was better handled in Avengers. That's why also I bumped it up a little. Yeah, but the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, very very cool character. I love him a lot. Yes, I think then. The next one would be Thor, the Dark Kingdom, Dark World. I don't know. This the Thor 2 is. It's just this movie is awful. It really the things I didn't like in the first Thor movie, being the characters mainly, even Chris Hemsworth. I think I was not too. I didn't really like his performance in the first place, and here I think it was handled even worse. The whole plot didn't make sense. The whole enemy was not taken seriously. Obviously, being this dark elf thing, it was a lot confusing. I just believe that this is a mess. I think people have explained it better than me a lot on the internet, on YouTube. You can look for it why this movie is awful. All I can say is I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the plot. I didn't enjoy the characters. There was nothing good about this movie. Maybe the appearance of the first, like officially the first Infinity Stone, the reality stone being kind of cool, but that's it. Yes. Let me see. This is a little bit. Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy will go to A tier. Guardians of the Galaxy is something a little bit different from what we've seen so far. Obviously, not playing on Earth most of the time, or not having to deal with Earth, like except for this one. And I love these characters. I think this is the main thing why you would watch it. These characters were so well. I like these work. They work so well together. They work well alone. The whole mashup is so funny. The whole scene in the prison in the first movie is so like so this the writing is just so nice. I'm not too sure how much love I have for this movie. I would even say it's above Avengers. Um, these are just the most entertaining and funniest movies of the whole MCU. Probably this one in particular is the best one, considering these attributes. Like, there's nothing that I would criticize when talking about this movie, but also not enough to say that it's a masterpiece like Iron Man. It was funny. It is still probably the most uh, enjoyable movie when you just want to laugh, and that's it. Yeah. Then I think we have Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. I'll have to put it at C tier. I think above Iron Man 2, but still behind Captain America, the first Avenger. Um, oh, I've completely forgot about Iron Man 3. I think this one I have to mention. Iron Man 3 I would put on B tier as well. Let's just put this here for a second. Iron Man 3, a lot of people didn't like it because of the Mandarin being like just a joke and not being the main villain, even though in the comics it was handled differently. I didn't really mind that. I thought it was handled quite well actually because it was unexpected. When in these movies you don't when you just watch the trailer and you got the whole plot, I don't think this is something that you should achieve when producing a trailer, and then it shows out that he's just a fake villain constructed by the real enemy who has threatened him once before because Tony left him. Like, his motivation were a little bit awkward, I would say, but overall the movie works well and I do like it. So then we have Age of Ultron, as you already saw, I put it at C tier, right here. I think like this is what mainly what was a little bit disappointing, that after Iron Man 3 and the whole character development of Tony Stark, he comes back to Avengers Endgame like he was in Avengers 1 or in the beginning of Iron Man 3. Nothing really changed, and I don't really like when we put that much effort into a character and make him develop, you make him change, you make him just a new person overall. And I think this worked really well in Iron Man 3, but they just kind of said, yeah, screw that, and we just want to have the old Iron Man back. Um, Obviously, artificial intelligence as the main enemy. Um, it's alright, kind of unoriginal, but still these characters work well together, and the mashup is again, like in the first Avengers, just always lovely to see. That's what makes this movie enjoyable and obviously watchable. Then, let me see. I think I'm not too sure whether Ant-Man was first or Doctor Strange. I'm pretty sure it was Ant-Man. Ant-Man is for me probably the best one in the C tier. Um, I don't feel like there was another superhero we needed or another character that would totally miss in the MCU. But actually, this movie kind of proved me wrong. Um, the Ant-Man, so Scott, he has a cool personality. He has something that differentiates him from all the others. He has a daughter, a woman, or ex-wife, I think, is what. Yeah, his ex-wife probably, yes. And the characters overall pretty cool written. It is again a suit which for me still works, but yeah, just mainly because of the effects and the new surrounding. Obviously, everything being small is handled very cool. The CGI is done well, and the overall technical performance of everyone working there worked exceptionally well. Yeah, nothing too bad to say about Ant-Man, but it's still, I feel like it's that low because it feels a little bit unnecessary and yes, the villain again has like no clear motivation and pretty forgettable, the orange ones. The orange or red one, yeah. This is a general problem in the MCU, the villains. But this is also the only thing that is not good about Iron Man, but still everything else is so great that it's at S tier. So now I think Civil War and then Doctor Strange, I believe. Yes, Civil War, I'll go straight to S. Civil War was something new. It was probably you could just say for me you could just say it's Avengers 3 or something because basically everybody is there except for Thor and Loki, Thor and Hulk, and this movie works so well when with Tony and Steve Rogers arguing against each other. Tony obviously liking the Avengers to be more controlled of because he is very afraid of things happening and them losing control like they did in the second Avengers movie. And Steve saying that it's not good that an institution controls them because then they are clearly not in charge of it and they have to handle these situations, and that's where they start to split up and fight each other. Then Bucky turns up, Black Panther turns up, so a lot of new characters. The overall they work so well together, and then at the end you find out that there are other Winter Soldiers, and this is just a great storyline. And then at the end, obviously the big fight between Iron Man and the Winter Soldier and Steve. This was just I left the cinema shaking at the end. So hell of a movie, hell of a movie. Yeah. Then I believe we have Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Doctor Strange. Let's do Doctor Strange for now. Um, or Spider-Man Homecoming. I think all of these are somewhere in the same at the same area. Yeah. Doctor Strange. I'll put him at B tier. Um, Doctor Strange is a very, very good movie, but suffers from the same problem that I think Thor has, or Ant-Man maybe a little has suffered from, and this is the Marvel formula where the arrogant guy has to learn that it's not everything works out so fine for him, he has to change, and so on and so on. I explained that earlier. And this is the same thing. I really love Doctor Strange, and I'm very, very excited for the second movie because I like everything around it. The multiverse, the whole magic, the whole setting, being mysterious, is great. So this, obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch, always a great performance, no matter what character he plays. But again, this unspectacular formula um, makes it a little rough for me to put him higher up. Um, well, maybe you could like maybe I could put it here or like this. I think it's better because yeah, I think there's somewhere like this is better. Um, because the ending was pretty unexpected and new with the like whole time dimension and then saying that basically the enemy is his prisoner and so on. That was great. Everybody knows what I talk about if you've seen the movie. Yes, then Guardians or wait, I would say Homecoming, Spider-Man first. A tier, no question. Spider-Man is such a great movie. I love him in the role, and I love how Tom Holland has handled the whole situation as Spider-Man, because this is new for him, and he obviously was in Civil War, so that's always the great appearance of all these characters, like I told you before. And then here, he has to fight new enemies and he is questioning himself like I should do something big. I want to be a part of the Avengers. And then sometimes that's what stops him from being an S tier. I think Iron Man being there when he screws up is just a little bit boring because you just know there will not be any consequences for him. But then at the end you have this whole plot twist where the girl he loves, the father is the main villain and so on. This is really great, unexpected ending, plot twist. Always good to have. And then I think we're gonna have Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Thor Ragnarok. Let's just for now go. I think this is the last one before Infinity War, so let's go with Black Panther. Black Panther I'll also put an A tier. Um, Maybe, yeah, this one is hard for me to rank, really hard, because like everybody else, I do consider Black Panther a very very good movie. I love the whole setting Wakanda because you didn't get to know it before that good, and the whole king situation and the conflict there actually being pretty realistic, like isolating themselves or being open to the world, even though that means that they could be in danger. Yeah, and I think the villain was written exceptionally well. Um, Being having this inner conflict of him having to suffer his life all the time, and Black Panther, so the T'Challa always being safe, always having a good life, even though they are kind of the same. They have the same blood, n- like almost. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh no, no, sorry. Thor Ragnarok. S tier. Thor Ragnarok is a very, 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 very good movie. I really love this one. Um, like the whole, like how they handle Chris Hemsworth in his role as Thor really, really made me loving this franchise again. Because after Thor 1 and 2, which I think are probably like two of the three worst movies in the MCU, they handled his character so well. They put out the female girlfriend of him, like Natalie Portman, so that worked well. A little bit of Loki, a little bit of new characters being very funny. They put his hair off, and I think they let Chris Hemsworth like do it the way he wants. Because in these two movies, you kind of realize that it's more script and less Chris Hemsworth, and this is more Chris Hemsworth and less the writing, and that works exceptionally well. The whole setting, again in space, different planets, and then at the end regaining his power and realizing that it is not always about his hammer, but about his actual powers, being the god of thunder and so on, works just well here, as well as Hulk being one of the main characters in this movie with Loki together. Just fine. And as you can realize, I cannot talk into like go that much into detail for every movie, because that would just take too long. All right. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is a movie that I would probably put to C tier. Again, I do think that it's probably here, yeah, because it works as a filler movie, but it was not something I'll probably watch that often again. And it's not something where I would say the plot and the fighting scenes are so exciting that it would be worth it to put it somewhere on this level. Not much to say. Same characters basically as in the first movie, obviously, except for his father returning. And yeah, I think I like the Guardians movie. So this is like I told you, this is average, and this is fine. Yeah, then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I would put on B tier. I think this movie works very, very good, and they did a lot, like a lot, they did handle this a lot better than the Guardians. Even though the characters here are way better, I like the whole story plot of the ghost trying to find something that saves her from dying. The professor at the end, the one that plays also in Matrix, and I forgot his name, Lawrence Fishburne, being the professor and being scared and helping her. The whole comedy there is just very, very good. And again, you can kind of see that this is a filler movie, and it's still a lot about Civil War because Scott has to deal with all the laws and all the restrictions ordered by Shield. Um, yeah, not much to say. Then we'll start with Avengers Infinity War, which I do believe is this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Infinity War for me goes to second place straight. Infinity War is great. You can kind of see that they have really a problem losing to someone and someone actually being a threat from the first second on. I mean, this movie starts with Thor. Obviously, at the end of Thor Ragnarok, you can see how much power he has gained and how strong he is. And then just Thanos comes to his ship, kills Loki, almost kills Thor, and beats the Hulk even without like using one of the two Infinity Stones he got. Oh, the one Infinity Stone he got at that time. All of that made up for such a great danger, and the whole movie is full of great scenes, full of great fights, full of great visual effects. It was even nominated for an Oscar, and not much to say. Why Infinity War is a great movie. I think a lot of people have explained it better than me, and probably would. Um, yeah, even even now, I'm still surprised by this movie, and I've watched it minimum of 5 or 6 times, and it's out for like 2 years. So yeah, Captain Marvel. Yeah, Captain Marvel is kind of a hard one for me to rank too because I've only watched it once, but I actually thought it was quite nice. I'll now put it for B tier. Um, Obviously, in first place is for me was very important that she is actually not always on Earth. So it starts in space, and then she has to kind of remember where she came from originally and things like that. And I think this works well, and it's kind of still like the same, like these two, all of these characters, the Marvel formula, where she's a little bit arrogant, and then she has to learn that so on and so on and so on. But she's pretty strong. I like her abilities. I like the visual effects. I like Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, the whole problematic with the aliens on Earth. Was just a funny situation they came into, and I really enjoyed that. So the last one, or actually second to last one, because Spider-Man Homecoming is not on here, which I will just tell where I would put it. Endgame is for me the best one of A tier, for sure. Um, I loved Endgame. I think everything was handled well. The story got to an end, which I really enjoyed, and all of these characters having to deal with the situation of Infinity War, being half of the people that live in the universe are dead, and you can kind of see the frustration, and then Tony losing hope, and then regain hope because Scott Lang returns from the time machine, and all of this is handled so well. Again, a lot of people have described it better. On videos already, but what I think stops this movie from being as great as like Infinity War um, is that a lot of passages feel very, very long when you watch that again. I don't have that feeling in Avengers Infinity War because there is always something going on, but then here you have these long pauses where nothing is really happening, that being convincing Tony at the beginning or like a little bit after the beginning to come again, and then this whole preparation for the time travel, and then after that starts, and even the whole Flash, like the whole time travel thing and where they are in the past works well, but I think that this passage feels a little bit long when you watch it again. So, Spider-Man Homecoming being the newest one for now, I would put it Spider-Man Far From Home probably somewhere B tier, like basically somewhere where the first one lands, probably below it and somewhere here, because then he has to deal with the situation that Iron Man is gone after Endgame, and how is he gonna deal with that? And then the whole Mysterio thing that he is like a master for him. He gives him his glasses and all of that made up a good movie. I've only watched it once so far, so not much I can say. Probably somewhere here because the whole plot I think is a little bit simpler and you can kind of guess that he is not the main bad guy. And all of this is just a trick to lure him in, and it's fine and it works well. And I think the whole plot is still alright, but not as good as like in the first one where you really had a exceptionally well plot twist at the end. So yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, be sure to tell me what you would do different, how you would rank these movies, and see you next time.